Welcome to SmashUp Review, where we're going to talk a little bit more about taking a look at the previous week, who's playing what, what are some of the popular players, popular cards, talk a little bit about the metagame, some of the strategy, and also take a peek at this upcoming week. So my name is Haibo. I'm here with my colleague Owen. And we'll just kind of jump right into it. So week one is in the books, Owen. Yeah, what'd you think? How was your week one?
It was great, and I'm glad to be on here. I'll tell you what, the biggest thing about week one that I'm feeling is everyone in survivor pools that went with Cincinnati is not happy this week. So yeah, already out of that. So a little disappointed there, but great week of football. I think I really enjoyed it. Exciting times with the rookie quarterbacks. Right, good to see Caleb get his first win, but I mean he struggled. It's par for the course. That's what happens. Bo Nix again. They flash talent, but it's a rookie quarterback in a fast league. I think my favorite storyline though of the week was guys that have just been injury prone. Jameson Williams, J.K. Dobbins, just blowing it out of the water. I thought that was a
Oh
fantastic
yeah.
story. I hope to see more of that.
Yeah. I'm a big I'm here out in Chicago, and definitely had to take Caleb in one of my other leagues. Him and Mark Andrews kind of sunk that
Yeah.
team this week. In
Yeah.
fact, I think a lot of the top tight ends, I think,
100%. Yeah, there
underperformed
was a
this
lot of
week.
struggle this year if you paid up for that. I mean, Kelsey didn't have a great night either on Thursday, but no one takes the cake like everyone was saying in the offseason. The MVP this year is Kirk Cousins agent. No doubt about that, right? Living here in
Oh
Atlanta,
yeah.
that was brutal. Thankfully, I did not play him because I've been in Atlanta long enough to know that you wait and see how these things are going to play out, and it's playing out how we'd expect.
Yeah, well, we'll see. We'll see. Cool. So let's take a look at some of the smash up metrics from last week. So great opening week. We had, over 1,600 people play in our weekly tournaments with an additional, 600 lineups coming in from leagues. So pretty good data set, over 2,000 lineups that people have played in both the weekly and in the league. I'm going to share my screen here a little bit, and let's jump into it. So I pulled out these were basically the top five in every position that people played. Um, I think you definitely see some usual suspects.
Look at that one. Isn't that painful, Christian McCaffrey? That got me too.
I
I had
know.
just kind of fallen asleep Monday night, and that one hurt some lineups big time.
I know. What's really interesting to me is it seems like, again, because of the whole DFS thing, right? Like you're budget constrained, it seems like people are concentrating. If you look at popular picks, they're concentrating in that running back wide receiver range,
Yeah.
right? I mean, you're seeing McCaffrey, right? Bijan, Brees, right? Tyreek. But you're not seeing,
Yeah.
Kelsey, right? Was not one of the top picks. Neither in terms of the quarterbacks, like Josh Allen's up there, but the other ones, Mahomes, none of what I would consider kind of your top quarterbacks outside of Allen really kind of hit that top five number.
I wonder if that's going to be again the way the slate sort of played out. Mahomes going on a Thursday night. Do we see a similar thing tonight where there's not a lot of Tua, not a lot of Tyreek? Or I think that'll be an interesting theory to talk about next week. If we see Tyreek kind of fade, I think we'll have some Thursday night bias.
Hmm. Absolutely. You were talking earlier, man, number one pick defense right here.
Yeah.
Number one pick defense. That is
I'm guessing they had a lot of one of my favorite cards, right? Is you get 15 points if they win, and I took them in my knockout pool, and sure enough, I played them there, and bad all around.
Yeah, yeah. It's interesting because we'll see. I mean, I feel like the strategy so far, this is what you see, I think, in a lot of other DFS type games, right? I think if you were to look at the same stats for something like FanDuel or DraftKings, I bet you would see something similar. It will be interesting to see over the course of the season if that changes. Because with the cards, like you don't really need to concentrate in running back and wide receiver. Maybe you go for the top kicker, top defense, because they're relatively speaking cheaper, and you can just do some crazy stuff with them card wise. So
I'm curious what Moody, I mean, what a night he had. Like, if you would have stacked him Monday night, that had to be like the top score. I uh,
yeah.
I loved your play, right? You did the Tyreek speed demon two over the way you paired that. It was a little bit of a lesson for me. I was like, okay, I got to get a little bit more strategic on my cards.
Speaking of cards, let's take a look at kind of these are the top. I was going to do top 10, but I ended up doing top 11 for for no real reason. But these were the top 11 played cards last week. Interestingly enough, I also put the prices in here. It's good to see. I mean, it looks like people are gravitating more towards some of the lower priced cards, so you can get more of them. Definitely not seeing a ton of those $7,000, $8,000 cards in here. Um, but I think a couple things that stand out. Defense wins championships. That was very popular.
Yeah.
Unfortunately for people, when we take a look, so in terms of the combos, these are the
That's great.
top combos. Number 2 right here, Cincinnati defense wins championships. That was not a good play.
So on the human vulture, did we see a lot of negative scores on that one? Do you know?
So I think we did see some negative scores, but we did also see a really big in terms of like points per dollar. We saw one of the highest points per dollar of the week was a human vulture play, though I don't know if anybody would have actually played this. But if you
Okay.
played human vulture on Saquon Barkley last week, you would have had one of the highest points per dollar spend in there because Saquon had 3 touchdowns. I mean, he also had over 100 yards, but like 3 touchdowns with human vulture, you're getting 20 plus points right there. And then you're losing like 5 points, right, from the
Okay.
yardage drop.
Yeah.
I just don't think anyone would have really played human vulture on Saquon though.
Yeah, that's interesting. There is a lot of strategy with the cards. And I mean, I played a little bit of the preseason to try to get my head around it. And I played last year. I love the expansion of cards that you did this year. I think it's great.
And we can see some of that. I mean, in terms of the top combos, definitely some I think that did very well. I think Tyreek, you see Tyreek actually coming in here 3 times.
Mhm.
People really liked Tyreek,
Yeah.
really liked they thought he was going to do very well, and he did. Um, on the flip side, you have a couple, you have some. Now, granted, not McCaffrey's fault, right?
Right.
But definitely a tough one there. Definitely a tough one there.
That's great data.
Yeah. Let's take a look at a couple lineups. Um, so let me go here. All right. So last week, if we go to history and kind of week 1, let's take a look at the leaderboard. Um, E. Clausen, 73. Shout out to E. Clausen for winning the overall tournament. Let's look at what they did.
So they didn't
Interesting.
play a tight end.
They didn't play a tight end.
Interesting. That did not even cross my mind to leave a position off. That is a really kind of unique thing about this.
Yeah. And actually, I mean, Caliph didn't do very well. Their flex didn't got
Yeah.
1 point for them either. I mean, it wasn't. I think they did.
143 points from Chicago. What a stack.
I know. Ridiculous. That
Wow.
was a ridiculous play. Yeah, so I mean, one thing for our listeners, like you actually don't need to fill out your whole lineup, right? You can leave spots blank if you want. We certainly see that in some of the other lineups, but I mean, E. Clausen right here. This is the winner right here. Starting defense, all pro defense, Hall of Fame defense, 3 defense cards on Chicago that just went off
Yeah.
went off. And I would say from a metagame perspective, that's probably the one that we saw the most of. I think a bunch of the top teams all basically, it was these 3 cards. I think they did defense wins championships, unnecessary roughness, goal in one,
The
um,
Sacks in the City played a lot.
sacks in the city. Yep, all the defense cards stacked primarily on Chicago. That seemed to be the winning play last week.
So, and again, not obviously there's going to be a lot of that where people stack a defense that it doesn't perform on. Are you concerned about gameplay at all that that's going to be what everyone starts doing, or have you thought through some of that?
Yeah, so we definitely want to shift with the metagame, right? We don't want everybody concentrated on one strategy and having it just be a who guesses the right defense. So actually, if you play this week, we up the prices of some of these defense cards. So
Okay.
that will not be possible to do the same stack this week. So
Love
we're
it.
gonna have to take a look at some other we're gonna have to find some other strategies this week. But definitely last week it seemed like a huge defense focused week.
Boy, I just that tight end, that's still blowing my mind. Leaving a position out. And it makes sense. They could have left off. I mean, they didn't want to leave anything off. They nailed the lineup, but even leaving off Raymond, it doesn't hurt anything if you wanted to upgrade in that spot too.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I wanted to talk about a couple other lineups. One in particular is the fifth place finisher last week. Shout out to the Rich. So he or she played, I think, a really interesting combo.
Is that
Uh,
scramble spikes on Jaden?
Scramble spikes on Jaden.
Yeah.
Yep.
Look at that
Um,
projected.
I know. Scramble spikes is another one of those, right? Like it could very easily go negative, but if you hit, man, that is it cost per points per dollar. It's one of the highest points per dollar plays out there.
Yeah.
Um, what did Jaden have? Like,
I
let's
feel like he ran for 2 touchdowns if I'm thinking about it, but
yeah,
he got a late touchdown that did nothing for the game, but good for the rich.
16 carries for 88 yards and 2 touchdowns.
Yep.
Josh Allen
No,
also had
no
two
passing
touchdowns.
touchdowns and what, 184 is that? Yeah. So
184. Oh yeah. So the
didn't
downside
matter.
was very minimal too.
Hmm.
I was gonna say Josh Allen also had two, but he had two
That's
passing
right.
touchdowns, so that would have hurt you a little bit more
Yep.
as well. Other than that, maybe Lamar. He had 122 on the. If Lamar had scored a touchdown, that would have been a good play
Yeah,
too.
yeah.
Um, but man, Jaden, yeah, that was a big one.
Okay, I like that. I could see Bo Nix being one that's going to surprise some people too with that play later in the season.
hmm I guess going forward, who do you think is going to be good with scramble specs? So you talked about Bo Nix. Any others that come to mind?
I mean, one, I don't know if I'm quite ready to give up on Daniel Jones, but he's someone that's hit or miss, right? I mean, if he starts running, he can easily put up 100 yards and 2 touchdowns on the ground. Without Saquon there, I mean, I don't know. I think it's going to be interesting how that plays out. Did not look good in week one, no doubt about it, though.
I actually love that because scramble spikes, if we remember, it powers up your rushing on your touchdowns, but it powers down your passing, right? You actually lose points from passing. So what you want is almost exact, not to not to pile on for Jones, but you basically want a quarterback who's not very good at passing. But
Well, I think we got our MVP then. We'll put
yeah.
put up a little Scramble Spikes poster for Daniel Jones.
The other shout out I want to give is to Dark Lotus. So Dark Lotus, ended up 235, 409, and 963. So, more and 998. So they had four lineups. They were leading after Thursday night, and I thought it was super interesting what they did. So this is actually not their Thursday night lineup. This is one of their other lineups, but they basically did the exact same thing. They basically played ride or die and picked
Interesting.
everybody on the same team.
Okay.
So they had a ride or die with all Ravens, which I thought was super interesting. And then their top lineup here, they did it with all Houston, it seems. Um,
Interesting. I haven't looked at, so again, that's just like leaving a player off. Another strategy I hadn't totally thought about. One that I was really, really thinking about playing this week is home and away. Did you notice anyone playing that with success last week where you kind of stack a whole bunch of home players to get that extra quarter percent?
Um, I I think our number four did that. So number four, Sticky Rice. I think Sticky Rice, yeah, they played home field advantage. I don't
Okay.
know how many of these folks were at home, but uh, were the Niners at
That sounds
home
like
or were they on the
there's a
road?
great product improvement for us to talk about, Haibo. Let's show home and away on these player cards.
Yeah, yeah. Were the Niners? Yeah, they were at yeah. So within their cards. So let's see. So
There
within
we
their
go.
cards, they had Mahomes who was at
Perfect.
home, Taylor who was at home.
Great.
Uh, yep,
Very
all
intentional. Yep.
yep, at home, at home. Godwin
Tampa
was at
home.
home. Yep. Chicago was at home. And
Yep.
then yeah, no, everybody on this team played at home.
Yep.
And
They knew
they
what they were
scored a
doing.
lot. Yeah, they scored
Yeah,
quite a
that's
bit.
great.
And they got
What does
fourth
home field
overall.
advantage cost? How much is that card?
I believe it's 6,000, I
Okay.
think.
Kind of when
I
you're going to like the points per dollar, that's where that kind of
yeah.
okay.
It's not on here, but I believe it's 6,000. So
Okay.
yeah,
I'm
not a
gonna
bad
do that this week. It just feels like a fun one to play when you feel really good about something. And this lineup, again, looking at this, you just wonder, could have they got Mike Evans in there if they would have left off, Rome or something like that? Like could have you left some things off and had enough budget to get there?
yeah. Yeah, that's definitely, I mean, who
Probably you
knows?
leave off Kittle and Rome, both of them together, and play Mike Evans, and you've got, I mean, they probably win, to be honest.
Yeah. Yeah,
Score.
that's right. That's right. Yeah, these some of these lineup based cards, you're able to hit so many different slots instead of just, one particular player. Can definitely do some of that.
Yeah.
Um, I want to shift gears a little bit and talk a little bit about one of my favorite cards, or one of the card that I think is super interesting. Um, really straightforward. Projectile dysfunction. Every incomplete pass is worth 1 point. Um, and I mean, if we take a look last week again at, I mean, let's just look at attempts. Like, who are some of the ones that, oof,
Wow. Yeah.
Watson, 24 for 45. So that 20, what's that? 21 incompletions. So we would have gotten 21 points off that card. Daniel Jones right
I was
here.
gonna say, where's Jones? There he is. He's
Yeah.
helping.
Yeah, 22 of 42. So 20 points for Jones.
Yeah.
Um,
Knicks would have done well. 16, it looks like.
yep, 16. Um, Jordan Love actually. Um, Jordan Love did not have a great game. 17 for 34.
Yeah.
Um, 17 points there. So that's an interesting one. It's an interesting one in that you can kind of pick, like I would bet Daniel Jones is probably pretty, cheap from a salary perspective.
Hmm.
Might be good to, pair something like that with him.
Stack the scramble spikes on there. Put projectile dysfunction. Might have a pretty good combo with him this week.
So I actually like that. Let's do that. Let's shift gears to kind of this week, and let's pick a lineup.
Now,
So
I'm going to air a grievance here, Haibo, that we're not eligible for these prizes. That's a real
that's
bummer.
true.
I was real sad to
That's
see
true.
that. I'm sitting there scrolling through and I'm like, where's my winning lineup? And sure enough, I'm blocked. So
I know. We unfortunately don't count in the standings, but we can play for pride.
no, no. Just so everyone knows, Haibo likes to play things for push-ups, and I'm not into that. He dominate.
Well, I mean, I like that strategy. Let's do it. Let's go with Daniel. Where is Daniel
Yeah,
Jones?
he's gonna be
He's gonna
way on
be
down. There he is.
5,000. Man,
Here
5,000.
look at what Mayfield did against Washington, right? Like, I mean, I think I think there's some things to this one.
Yeah. Um, they that's a good, well, let's do it. All right. So we're gonna do Daniel Jones. Let's throw scramble spikes on him. And then let's do projectile dysfunction. So um right there. We're really betting on Jones having a really terrible, really terrible passing game,
Yeah, that's
getting like
right.
getting like 3 touchdowns on the ground.
It's very possible against Washington.
Who do you like for defenses this week?
I'd probably go Ravens. I think it just feels pretty obvious. Home, going against Minshew. I just at some point he's going to have a good week with Adams, but I don't know that this is the week it happens.
I would agree with that. I like that too. Ravens here. So you
And
guys have
and listen,
probably seen my
hold on. Do we go back to the well? I know since he burned everyone last week, but do we go back to the well on defense wins championships? Biggest favorite of the week. We can hold off and see what else comes up, but it's
yeah,
on you.
I do like that. I mean, that's 15 points. I mean, more like I would be shocked if the Ravens lost.
Right. I mean,
I
it's
would be
it
shocked.
it feels like that point for dollar feels pretty good. We can come back to it because it does leave us with 1,500, which kind of puts us in an odd price point. We have what human vulture and then leaving 500 on the table, I think.
So I actually like that strategy. Let's do it. Let's play defense wins championships.
Okay.
And let's see what we have left. So in our range, we could do
Okay.
Human
We
Vulture.
got three cards. Okay.
Yeah, so we could do Human Vulture, Special Teams Ace. So anybody who's doing punting or kick return yards.
I
And
think I
then,
played Xavier Gibson in one of my lineups, just trying out some cards. I didn't even look back because my lineup had McCaffrey and ended up just tanking, so I didn't even see how he did. But I did use that card once last week.
and then finally roll the dice. Any player who plays less than 30 offensive snaps, they just get a ×3. So
I'd
I
love to talk
don't.
about that one next week because like in my mind, I can't think of who played less than 30 snaps, right? That's a tricky one to sort of come up with,
Mhm.
but I'd love to see how that plays out because there's probably some real obvious folks that sit out on, obvious rundowns for receivers and things like that.
Yeah, it's an interesting one because in the NBA, it's basically based off the like microwave scorer type of idea, right? You come off
Mhm.
the bench and just put up points, but it's a little bit different in the NFL. You don't really have that type of player. So maybe one of the maybe one of the running back committees.
That's right. That's what I was thinking. That's what I was trying in my head. The J.K. Dobbins. I just, with him and Gus Edwards splitting time, I don't know how many, how many plays was Dobbins in for, but like that would have been I mean, that's a big card with the week he had last week if he would have been eligible.
I mean, that's not a bad idea. Like let's take a look at where they are. Well, I can also just use the search bar here. Um, so Dobbins, they're playing Carolina, so definitely, well, that could be good or bad, right? Like if they get up big and they just end up running the ball all the time, now you're getting like a ton
Yeah.
of snaps there. Who are the receivers for the Chargers this year?
I played Lad McConkey last week, and then you got Josh Palmer.
Is Palmer? He's questionable.
Yeah, that's what I wasn't sure about him. So then Lad might be a pretty good play. You know, is Mike Williams still there? Not Mike Williams. Quentin Johnson. Quentin Johnson is who I was thinking of.
He is still there.
Could be interesting if Palmer ends up sitting.
That could be. I mean, or even like if he plays and he plays less than half the snaps, but he
Yep.
gets a touchdown,
Yep.
he gets 3 targets, 2 receptions, and like a touchdown, ×3 on that. That's pretty good.
Yep. Yep.
Let's do that. Let's do Quentin, and let's do roll of the dice on Quentin. Um, all right, that's our card setup for this week, and now we just go through and kind of pick out the rest. So, and we're set up pretty well, I would say, dollar wise. We have averaged like 6,000 per,
That's
you know,
nice. Yeah.
um, yeah, so definitely can throw some stars in there as well. So, all right, well, Owen, thank you for kind of joining me this week.
This is great.
We'll see how how this works. For everybody listening, go set your lineups, try out some new things, and we'll be back next week. We'll talk about kind of what works, what didn't, and yeah, best of luck in week 2.
Awesome. Thanks, Haibo. Good
All
luck
right.
this week, everybody.
Have a good one.